I'd like to at least introduce the people that we have with us. Returning Matthew Moore, welcome back.
Thank you.
Lovely to have you. And on the phone with us, we have Robert Cochrane. Hi, how are you?
I'm doing great. How are you?
Good, thanks. So before we get started, those of you who, and we'll put the number up, I can't remember off the top of my head, the episode that you were in on the first one.
Mm-hmm.
And you've done so much more since then. But so if you want to give like a quick little background of what your story is, and then Robert will move over to you, and then we'll dive right in. Welcome to The Secret Life of Parkinson's, a podcast created by people living with Parkinson's to help break the stigma of a disease no one likes to talk about. Now here are your hosts, Jessica Krauser and Brian Baker.
Yeah, I was diagnosed in 2019, and I was living in Chicago at the time. But I'm an actor, right? So I was doing Shakespeare in the Park and realized that my tremor was a problem. Mm-hmm. I had tremor, I had depression, had anxieties, fighting through all that. So I thought, man, I'm not ready to quit. So I wrote my own play. I wrote a play about Parkinson's, and since then I have turned that play into a screenplay. So we are super excited about the possibility of a movie about Parkinson's. And along the way, I've written stand-up comedy about Parkinson's. So I do a little stand-up routine.
Yep, saw that.
Help people face their greatest fears. Yeah, I've had DBS and am now a DBS, adaptive deep brain stimulation. So it was a little underwhelming, maybe the first couple weeks, but they said it's learning how to learn.
Oh,
so,
okay.
Okay, that's great.
That's good.
Evidently, it's learning pretty well because I'm doing okay.
Good.
I remember last time I was here, I had quite a tremor going on.
Yeah, because your tremor was always really stronger than...
So
pretty significant.
I'm going to be ignorant. What is adaptive?
Well, see, you don't have the adaptive. Sorry.
No, I don't.
So adaptive. Can you explain it though?
No.
Okay. So
that's where
So that's where things are headed. So Medtronic came out with that. They already had it, and then they were able to like turn it on, I guess, whatever, when they got FDA approval this year. But adaptive, from my understanding, and so please, if you're watching, you can correct me if I'm wrong, and we can change it up. But adaptive means it's reading
your body.
Yeah.
And
it's
in the moment.
I know what it is. I used to know what they called it. I guess.
Yeah.
It's providing what your brain needs in the moment. Mm-hmm. So instead of just a regular signal impulse going 24/7, it changes and adapts.
Yeah. So let's meet our friend on Zoom. Sorry, Robert. I mean, hey, how are you? Good. Glad you could be here.
No, it's perfect. My Parkinson's journey starts with my dad. He was diagnosed in 2001, and we've been on the long road to figuring out and seeing the many things that have happened and changed along the way. Dad's still with us, 24 years into the diagnosis. And yeah, I mean, things are about where, I'd say he's ahead of the scale in many ways because a lot of people don't make it that long. But it's rough too. And, my adapting changes of, being a son who loved him to seeing what we could do together. We've made these documentaries, the Boys of Summer documentary, going to all the ballparks together. A lot of people heard and saw about those. That's great. But that wasn't it. You thought, a cure within 10 years. And it didn't happen. So now what, as you're on the long haul of this thing? Mm-hmm. And it turned me into understanding what a caregiver is and then becoming one at increasingly high levels to the point where I went back for a very unexpected PhD studying the effect of improvisation and storytelling on Parkinson's based on one small study done by Northwestern in Second City that showed there was some effect. So I said, there's some proof I can follow up. And that became my nonprofit, which is called Yes and Exercise, using the well-known exercise principles in a creative fashion with storytelling and improvisation. And I saw Matthew's play at the ATMRD conference back in June of 2024, immediately was in tears, said, "Hey, have you thought about making this into a film?" He goes, "What are you talking about?" I said, "Well, I know something about that. I've got some film background." So he came and took one of my cinema therapy courses, the Shawshank Hero's Journey, and we worked together to create this his screenplay, which I'm proud to say I'm producer of, and we're in development in film festivals. And Matthew is my shining star student to say,
Aw.
this is what's possible, the impossible, the things you never thought you were. One of my favorite things that Matthew has told me, he said, I never would have dreamed this. And that really, Matthew, I've never told you this, but that echoes a lot of what my dad said. Not saying you're my dad, but it just hits my heart that way, that he told me that several times of the things that we've done, because we've done some amazing things he never would have dreamed. And I think that's just part of my character is making the impossible possible. And that goes right up to finding a cure for Parkinson's. I make I don't hide about that at all. We're going to swing big. We're going to keep swinging big. And that's why we exist.
That's awesome. So, Robert, I did a very poor job in trying to explain what cinema therapy is to Brian. So if you can do us a favor and explain it to him as well as everybody else, because I never heard of it. And after I looked at your website and checked things out, I was like, this is really interesting, because you think of art therapy, speech therapy, music therapy. And I'm like, cinema. Okay, I don't know why I didn't get it in the beginning, like movie therapy, but can you talk about that?
Well, sure. Movies are so well known. They're more a part of our lives than they ever were before. We are consumers at an unbelievable level. And, it used to be the theaters were a, exclusive space. Then it became the home, and now it's our phones, right? We just consume content like crazy. So the point is that it's part of our neurology. We are natural born storytellers from a survival standpoint to the days of being cave dwellers, right? We wrote stories on the wall, drew pictures to tell us about the hunt, to tell us where the safe places and the dangerous places were, all that sort of stuff. We now seek it broadly for entertainment. Mm-hmm. However, it doesn't change the fact that our neurology is constantly patterning. We are patterning machines, much the same way as the adaptive device in Matthew's head is trying to figure out what the patterns are and how it can meet them. Our brains are constantly trying to pattern the world around us. Well, one way to pattern things is through narrative, is through story. Mm-hmm. One of the guys who created a form for that, it's not the form, but a good form, his name is Joseph Campbell, and he made something called the hero's journey, the monomyth, that basically looking at 10,000 years of stories from different geographies and cultures and all sorts of things, said, we're telling the same human story that can be broken down into X number of steps that go around in a circle. And we're doing this over and over again to try to make sense of the world and live the best lives we can do. Many of us are unconscious of our stories or our roles within our stories. And here's a big thing that we run into, the idea that we're the heroes of our own story. People balk at that like crazy. What do you mean, me a hero? No, that's Indiana Jones. That's Luke Skywalker. That's, whomever else. We're all the heroes of our stories. And so accepting that, first of all, and then realizing, oh, wait, I have some power and influence over my story once I become aware of it, and then start exploring it and decide, what I really want, and figure out, what that really scares me too, and we go anyway. That's the type of thing that cinema therapy can do, because we use a film like Shawshank Redemption, which we did with Matthew. Like right now, we're using Field of Dreams. I'm working with Rocksteady Boxing. This is exciting. Breaking news. We're going to be using Rocky to help the Rocksteady boxers tell their story, because clearly the culture of fighting, short of literally hitting each other, of course they don't do that, but the idea and culture of what it means to fight back, that's exemplified beautifully by Rocky, right? So that story and the fighter spirit, that's the type of thing cinema therapy can do, help people understand, explore, and rewrite their own personal narrative.
So it helped you write a movie.
That was my homework, it turned out.
But so like, was it, I'm assuming not everybody does that, is going to do that, obviously, and that's not the purpose, but how, talk us about the therapeutic feeling, I guess, of it, or.
Sure. Well, the nice thing about it is that we're fitting in a certain form. So instead of just sort of writing, writing without some idea of where I'm going, that's difficult to do. So it's nice to have a form, which was the 12 steps of the hero's journey.
Did you learn about yourself? Is it kind of like that?
Kidding?
Like you learn
Absolutely.
I feel like you should do this.
I'm still confused.
That's because I think you think you're the villain in your own movie.
No, I'm just, because I guess when you said theater and cinema therapy, I'm like, huh? it's going to cure Parkinson's. How?
No, it's going to help people tell the story.
No, and that's what you said it was, or that's why I'm like, okay, this is not a. It's not a.
Not a cure.
It's not a
Watch a
treatment.
movie and you're going to be cured.
It's not. It's not necessarily a treatment for it, but.
Well,
We
it's a
disagree with
treatment
that.
it's a treatment like a talk therapy or a speech therapy or music therapy. It brings out, it's a different type of physical therapy that you should be getting. It does something different, but it's not, it's like a different type of medicine, like exercise.
When you write
Well,
two pages of dialogue and you cry for half an hour and then write two more and you cry for half an hour.
You would love it. You cry all the time.
You can't read my handwriting anyway, so.
Yeah, how do you deal with that with people with Parkinson's and handwriting? Because I can't read my own either.
It's really important because you're right. A lot of people have micrographia, right, and other types of blocks to writing. Writing itself is a difficult process, and I don't back away from that. One of the real adaptations has been the use of ChatGPT. We lean into that unabashedly. Now, it's yeah, exactly, and I know people's general fear of ChatGPT is, oh no, it's plagiarism, oh it's taking over, and it's like. There's a way to use it as a tool that can be effective and reflect you as opposed to taking over for you. And we very carefully go over that in the program. So people can use talk to type, they can use ChatGPT, and also many people we have a heavily sponsored mentor program. Others help other students get through whatever their challenges are, because we've been doing this, as part of the PhD program. It was it was clinically tested. And now it's been 5 years we've been running it with, I think, 5 or 6 different films that keeps expanding. So helping people overcome their challenges, we're nothing if not adaptive. We have to be.
Mm-hmm. Is it with any chronic disease or any issue people have, or is it just with Parkinson's that you focus on?
So interesting that Parkinson's, because of my dad, has been the focus, right? And the community that I've fallen in love with since, I keynote and go around and speak and have a lot of friends. Some of my best friends are in the Parkinson's community. At the same time, we recognize that as much as we'd like to do here, the Parkinson's community from a health standpoint is relatively small in numbers compared to some other health crises out there. And the universal pattern of storytelling works for all. So yes, I do have some friends in the health field that are working right now to kind of expand the opportunity into other fields and see how it could be used, which I'm always happy for. My first and foremost is always going to be in the Parkinson's community. However, as a responsible nonprofit owner, yes, I have to make sure we're meeting bottom lines as well.
Yeah.
So are you doing this with Northwestern or what university?
Not technically. I mean, their paper that they did with the Parkinson's Foundation in Second City was the inspiration for me to go and initially study improvisation. Inside of that PhD program, I was challenged to find another lane. Many of us said, let's see if we can expand what you're doing. And the storytelling thing came up. And on a whim, I applied for a grant with the Parkinson's Foundation and it got funded. And I was like, oh crap, now I have to do this. And it became wonderful. And it was right, during the beginning of COVID. And it was never intended to be online, like improvisation, never intended to be online. But this, once again, is a sign of adaptation.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
So tell us about your movie, your homework that just became, now a movie.
Well, there's 12 parts of the story, so I had to write 12 scenes, and even that wasn't enough. So it was funny because the play's about 45 minutes, short, relatively. And so I holed up in my bedroom and typed, because, we needed like 100 pages, and it's about a minute per page to act out a movie. So I needed 100 pages of dialogue, and the class provided, I don't know, maybe 50% of that at best. And so it took a lot. And I did cry a lot. I learned a lot about myself. I learned a lot about, in comparison to the hero, where was I in my journey? And man, it was life-changing.
So how did you guys then, obviously you were connected at this point, but how did you then look to say like, hey, this can actually be something that you want to do? Where was that stuff?
I don't know when that clicked exactly, but he approached me and said, let's turn this into a screenplay. And it's been full on since then. And I'll bring up Jimmy Joy. Say again?
Yeah. Matthew, if you don't mind me, that there's a lot of trust that I think had to be built into the relationship, getting to know each other. And helping Matthew see that I do have a background in filmmaking, that not just with my documentaries, but I've made narrative features, from earlier in my career when I was at UCLA and living in Hollywood, and made a couple that had a little bit of noise. So I know the business, I know how to do it, and then say, this looks like and smells like a real film to me. And I want to note too that Matthew gave me something very important, a gift here that sometimes helps other students see, wait a minute, how could my story matter? It's this term called aesthetic distance. And he knows this from being both an actor and a professor in the field, to say that instead of just telling the linear story that all of us know about ourselves, you create a character, maybe it's somewhat based on or rooted in who you are, and there's freedom to explore a story that is not exactly yours, but one you empathize or are compassionate about. And now you're serving the story, and you're serving the audience too, saying, why does this matter to me? What are the themes? What are the larger feelings? And I remember Matthew early on being like, are we going to have enough? And I was like, dude, you got to trust me. It's going to get there, and we'll get there together. And we were doing weekly back and forths. And I mean, I sometimes, I can laugh now. I'm sorry for the pain that Matthew felt and the fear in the process. I was never anything but confident that we were going to get there to have what I feel is a great screenplay. And it's still developing. It's in festivals right now, and we're getting more feedback. And yeah, it's good.
So I know with your play, you had a goal or mission to, initially was to educate the healthcare professional group, the neurologists, on what life was like, what you didn't say, which is what the title is, what I didn't say. Do you have something like that going into this?
Yeah, that's still the goal. It may not be the primary goal, but yeah. When I started to think about the potential audiences, PWPs, care partners, medical professionals. I mean, for all of them to see just a real slice of life. And that's what the movie is.
And this isn't a documentary. This is an actual...
And that's there are a lot of documentaries about Parkinson's. So, we don't want to say but we would be the first full-length feature narrative film about Parkinson's. And that's a big deal.
So what else can you guys tell us about? I don't know how much you can share, want to share.
Jimmy Choi is a cast member.
That's a big deal.
So that's where Jimmy Choi comes in. So they talked. Go ahead, you guys talk about that. Tell us about Jimmy.
Go ahead, Robert.
Jimmy, first of all, we wrote the screenplay, as it were, and then part of the process after you finish is you start thinking about casting. Think about, who could play these roles? And, as we were kind of looking over, the obvious thing that popped off of this, we did table reads. So this trainer, he kind of sounds like Jimmy, and he really did. It wasn't intentional, but he was, very positive. He was funny. He was, very muscular, and we brought it up in our board meeting. Matthew's on the board as well. And the board immediately went, oh, yes, you have to get Jimmy. I said, well, good luck. I'll ask. I mean, I have no idea. And I asked him, and, Jimmy's been going through tremendous personal challenges with his son right now. And, I was trying to do everything I could to be very cautious and stand back about it. But even with that, he came back and said, Robert, I'm in, whatever you need. And I was just thrilled, because we've had a friendship for a while before this, and we've spoken together at events. But this is going out on a limb for him. He's not an actor by trade. It does. I mean, the role of David, I said, it really is Jimmy. I mean, in retrospect, right, Matthew? I mean, it's like, this is him.
That's really cool.
Yeah. And that helps us in a variety of ways. So we can take it now to nationally known actors, figures, right? It helps us in raising funds, of course, to have a national figure like Jimmy put his seal of approval on it. So that's
where is it going to be located? Can you say that?
Columbus, of course.
Oh, Columbus,
yeah,
Ohio.
No, we
Smile, will you? Get excited. This is fun stuff happening here.
It's a movie.
It's my resting bitch face.
If you need that, he's very good at it. But yeah, so I thought that was also like the really exciting part is, it's going to be, it'll be based here in Columbus, Ohio. Because we have a lot going on.
We've got a lot going on.
A lot going on here. Yeah. So
that's right. Can you tell me, because we talked before about this, when you heard this, you started telling me about exciting things that I didn't know about your plans in Columbus, because, your idea of turning it into a hub of Parkinson's education, I mean, to me, if we could be a part of that, that again, there are many cases of films. Shawshank is one just up there, that what it does in Mansfield, and Field of Dreams, what it does in Dyersville, that films can absolutely shine a spectacular light on a city. And that was our goal. So this is where I hope we're well met.
That's awesome. I guess I never really thought about it like that. I know you mentioned it, but I didn't really put it in that perspective. But yeah, with Changing Parkinson's, which is our nonprofit name, went from 5K to JK to Changing Parkinson's for obvious reasons, that everything we're doing is we're trying to change the way people live, think, and act with Parkinson's. But with that, we want, there's so much going on in Columbus. We, with Melissa's exercise program that she's working on, a training certification so we can get PD Next Steps kind of out there like Rock Steady Boxing, like so many people can train on Rock Steady. We want people to be able to be trainers on, PD Next Steps. So that's going to be coming out soon. Obviously, we have the podcast, which is located here, and we have our big, fundraisers and things like that. But we have great movement disorder specialists.
Yes.
We have
a lot of them.
Yeah, we have a lot. Like there's some states that might not have one.
Right.
And we have, I think 4 or 5 right in
at least
Columbus.
Yeah.
And then there's Cincinnati, and then Cleveland. I mean, even just like so the state of Ohio, but like Columbus as like that hub, that center point. And we were talking about this the other day because there's articles on it now called the Parkinson's Belt. Have you heard about that?
No.
It's like it's like with this.
Basically, the Rust Belt.
The Rust Belt, yeah. So like how the Rust Belt is, that's like where they're starting to follow.
So where people are getting Parkinson's, you're saying?
They're getting Parkinson's. So like Pittsburgh and
Youngstown, Warren,
places with toxins in the
steel mills.
So there's some studies going on, and it's in other parts of the country, but it's like they can see these pockets, and so they're calling it the Parkinson's Belt, and there's something in California called something else. But anyways, it's just one of those things that it's like, we have Ohio State, Ohio Health, like all these places that we can really not just, again, research. And I like what you said, Robert. It's like, 10 years ago, and then you're here now, and it's like, yeah, there's still no cure. Yeah, like our hope and, positive energy still needs to go that there will be. But in the meantime, what do we do?
Yeah.
What are we doing? So anything that we can do to help each other. And, hopefully this movie becomes something similar to how I feel the podcast has been for us is people watch it, listen to it, and they're like, that sounds like me. I'm not by myself. I'm not alone. And so if you can get broader reach with that, I mean, that's just, it's going to be awesome.
It's
we've used, and I know Jimmy jumped on the same idea of the Trojan horse, right? The idea of, if the movie is not entertaining, if it's not something that's broadly enjoyable, then we've got a problem. I mean, yes, as Matthew says, the central character has Parkinson's. However, if it's just about that and it's just a sob story, who's going to go to watch that?
Yeah.
So, it's entertaining. It's funny in many places. It's tragic. Matthew has coined the term feel-good tragedy, which I love. And it's hopeful too. So it shows, something that, you could easily substitute. And we actually got some feedback like this, were it, cancer or MS or, some other, either chronic or acute illness, any life challenge, for what Paul, the character, is going through, and go, that's me too. In the read, do you remember, Matthew? I'm forgetting the gentleman's name, but he told us that exactly, that he related to the human element. And that's what I didn't say. All those hidden feelings is so brilliant about. Regardless of Parkinson's or any other challenge, so many of us isolate. We shut down. We think, I don't want to burden others or whatever. And this is the encouragement to say, it takes all of us, and in creative ways that we may not have expected.
So is it safe to say that should we think about this movie not as like we talked about earlier? It's not a documentary. It's not just focused on Parkinson's, but is it like, I'm trying to think of a movie right now where it's like it's about maybe somebody who has cancer throughout the journey, but that's not the whole part. You know what I mean? Is it like that?
It's every man, right? That whole concept. So Paul's every man.
Okay.
An everyman character, right? So we can all relate to him. He's not he doesn't work a miracle. He just he doesn't win this award. He doesn't win that. He's a regular guy, and he gets Parkinson's. What does he do with it?
Okay.
And that's one of the beauty of Robert's classes, right? So many people, I think, don't want to write a Parkinson's story because it's not dramatic.
Yeah, and I'm hearing about the movie and the writing, and I'm like, I don't want to write something that's going to bring me down. I want something to lift me up.
You want something real. Yeah, something real, something joyous, something to hope about, as you mentioned. And that's what I think the movie does. Yeah.
So, Todd, let me ask real quick. There's no movies, but like the like Netflix series, there's different shows out there with people with Parkinson's.
Yeah, Shrinking.
Yeah, Shrinking. That's the one I was trying to think of.
Harrison Ford.
Yeah. So is that? Yeah, you're right. Is it going to be? So it's going to be like a show, and they're what?
We get feedback on our podcast about that, about how they were portraying people with Parkinson's.
Well, and I think that's what you're trying to shift as well. Like,
well, it's not easy. It's not easy. I mean, look at us, the three of us. We're similar in age, but have a lot of different, symptoms.
Yeah.
And can I have a movie about a Parkinson's person that doesn't have a tremor? That's a question. That's a real question to ask.
Yeah.
Because then it just looks like an ordinary person, but it's not. It is somebody really facing the bottom half of the iceberg, right? Tremors on top, but everything below the water. So
everything below the table you can't see right now is stiff as a board. So
the diversity is so important too, because that's a big part of what Matthew and I wrote. And there are scenes in particular, support groups and like exercise places where we get to see
a 5K. There's a 5K.
5K.
5K is very much based on the 5K for JK. But we get to see the many faces and diverse looks and ages and everything else that Parkinson's is, so that, one of the criticisms of Shrinking, as much as Harrison Ford is brilliant, is it's an old white man. And we know the old white man problem with Parkinson's, right? It doesn't represent the spectrum nearly. And it tends toward pity for Parkinson's as opposed to, wait a minute, the young person, the ethnically diverse person, the females.
Are you telling me you need a female 43-year-old in your movie? No.
Yes.
But no, I do like where you're going with that, because that is a lot of our struggle, especially from a woman's standpoint. But, even just, ethnic backgrounds, we've talked to a lot of people about, they're like, we get told it can't be that, because it's not normal. But it's like there is no normal with this anymore. So I'm really excited to hear that. That's awesome.
Another part of the brilliance of Jimmy, right? I mean, he just embodies that without even having to talk about it. And to Matthew's point, Paul, the character, is at one point of his spectrum. David, Jimmy's character, is at another. Paul's entire journey is really about acceptance. And a lot of people, Jimmy, one of them, Michael J. Fox, and many others, that's a large part of their journey, just getting to acceptance, right? I mean, getting past survival to the point where thriving can be there. So getting to show, again, the spectrum within the community, and the bottom line being that connection and community and, the ability to be resilient and adapt, that's the key. I think we show that, and again, that it takes a village, it really does, of not just the people with Parkinson's, care partners, family members, everybody else.
Gyms, friends.
Oh, friends.
Big time.
So you said the word acceptance, and I see it in the behind you. So is there what is with that? What's with the sign?
So that's my book, and it really, it's the journey through my PhD program and my understanding of Parkinson's. Because even though when I went into the program, I was about 20 years in, I learned a new level of acceptance about what it meant to be put upon by an institutional force out of my control to a degree. And many of the stories I heard from people with Parkinson's was how large of a struggle that was for them. And I'm not trying to blame or demonize or anything else, the medical institution, or paint with a single brush. However, many people I spoke with talk about how it feels to be put into what we call the Parkinson's prison, a feeling of less than, by being told either what their Parkinson's is, being not listened to what their Parkinson's is, or not just being supported in a way that allowed them to thrive. And that was very much my experience as a student in the PhD program. So that synergy of listening to the story with people with Parkinson's and going through being, a struggling PhD student versus established Parkinson's experts who just thought, no, you can't do what you're doing, Robert. I go, well, you're not listening to the people. That was my entire point of being there, is to give voice and agency to the Parkinson's community that isn't heard. So acceptance is about that, about number one, accepting, A, Parkinson's, B, the struggles with Parkinson's, and the full messy reality, not rushing to a conclusion, a judgment, anything else. It's a daily daily task to come to acceptance with whatever the reality is, whether that's Parkinson's or otherwise. So that's the name of the book.
Do you think that book is good also for the caregivers or family members of Parkinson's patients? Just because I know there are some people within the family dynamic or friend group or whatever it may be that they're not accepting it. You know, they just pass it on. So is that something that would be good for them?
Well, because I mean, it comes from my bias, right? As somebody who's been deeply involved as a care partner with my dad, and at the same time, I speak to and in these classes that I teach, by the way, they're not just for people with Parkinson's. They are also welcome to care partners, family members, everybody, knowing what a problem that communication gap is. So the book helps people be aware of where there's not acceptance and where, I mean, you're right. Family members, even, direct spouses, sometimes we hear tragically about them not connecting to it, not being able to accept or being so fearful of the outcome. And that's a big part of the movie too, that, Matthew courageously put forward with the character of Paul about the struggles of Marty and Paul and, Marty's own journey and Paul's needing to accept her struggles too. It's a multifaceted stream of communication.
Because that's what I was telling Brian before. It's like my son, he's 15. So, rough age to begin with, but I was diagnosed when they were 9. I have twins. And, he gets it obviously, but he just doesn't want to accept things, even though I'm great, I'm like, I still do all the things. So I'm like, I'm like, I don't know what he can't get past. So it's like, I know he understands it. I don't know if he's like truly accepted it. So that's why I was just interested. Like, is that something, because kids go on their own journey.
I call it the disease you have to keep on accepting.
Yeah.
Because there's some, new things pop up. You have to say no to something and you have to accept that. Right, it's the gift that keeps on taking. So every time it takes, you got to accept.
Well, we've talked about a lot about living within Parkinson's instead of trying to
fight it.
Just not, and it is accepting it, but it's also not. Yeah.
Well, but you don't live within it if you don't accept it first.
Right.
So I think that's a really good point. It's like in order for when people are like, how do you guys seem so good? It's like, well, because when I accepted it. And now I'm living within and not fighting it.
Right.
So the framework I was given by my sister, who's a longtime 12-step survivor, and thank God she's doing good work there, is awareness, acceptance, action. And if you don't follow that pathway, a lot of people, maybe they become aware and they jump to action. And I think that's very prevalent, right? Okay, now what do I have to do to manage this thing? My pills, my exercise, my support groups. However, they haven't really accepted the long-term reality. And Matthew and I had a good talk about that the other day, about accepting, the difficult parts of things and therefore using, hopefully, that acceptance to fuel the present day. I also understand, Brian's point about, I don't want to sit and, mull and be in this negative space. And I get that's why many support groups are a problem. The mid-ground, I think, is the acceptance of bittersweet as a flavor of life, maybe perhaps the truest flavor of life, right? And that's Parkinson's or no. We're all going to die. We're all going to get sick. And there's an avoidance, the opposite of acceptance of that generally, societally.
Yeah.
Right? Parkinson's just brings it forward a little more. I remember my dad talking about that early on in 2004 in our first, Boys of Summer journey, saying maybe this just speeds up my awareness of things. And he was right. 3 years in, when, like you, he had hardly any symptoms and, he was just fine. The truth is he is where he is now, and it's very difficult. And it doesn't change the love. It doesn't change the journey, but hopefully it raises people's awareness, because there's those damn Parkinson's stories out there. People say, well, it's not that bad, right? I mean, you have pills, you have a surgery. It's not that bad. No, it is that bad.
Yeah.
Or you don't have a tremor, you look okay. And I'm like, oh my God, stop telling me that.
Right? Yeah. Because they don't know what's going on underneath the surface for you.
And that's, accepting it and dealing with it isn't the issue for me. It's, I guess if there's one thing I'm afraid of is the unknown of what am I going to be like in 10 years and 5 years. This week I was talking to Justice a little bit ago about, at the gym, I was looking at myself in the mirror working out. I'm like, oh, there's no fluidity. Everything is rigid. Everything is, has to be thought out ahead of time. Okay, bend your knee, now step back, and stuff. Is that the beginning of the end?
Yeah, but then you also have to remember, like, there's still things you can do. You're still working, and that's a stress. So when things like that start changing, or if you start taking medication, or you adjust your DBS, so it's like, it's finding the things within. But yeah.
Adaptation. You've said it many times, right? The minute I give you a story from my dad's life that, he thought running was over. That was a big part of his life. Eventually it got to where his gait wouldn't allow. And one of the adaptations just coming through what we did was I was running in honor of my dad, his favorite race, the Beta Breakers out here in San Francisco. And I saw a father pushing a son in a chair, and I said, could a son push his father? And I called up Hoyt running chairs, and they said, yes. And I got my dad in the running chair, and he was able to participate in the Beta Breakers.
Yeah.
And then eventually the Disney Marathon and other things. And these were things he never thought he'd be. But when we ran those races and the cheers from the crowd, we had little signs that said, "Go, Dan, go."
Aww.
He was alive. He was present. He was seen.
Yeah.
He couldn't run, but he was still in the race.
Yeah. Because he was also living within what he knew he could do. And it's like, don't fully give up. Like, there's still life to enjoy. And
if you hit a barrier, find a way around it.
Yeah.
Man.
Well, this has been great. I hope you understand now a little bit better what cinema therapy is. I think we should go. I would love to go through it.
Well, you knock yourself out.
No, you're going to do it with me. You're doing it with me. But no, thank you guys so much. Thank you for coming here. And thank you, Robert, for joining us and for all the work that you guys are doing. Super excited to see where this goes.
They're so expensive, these movies.
Yeah. So if you, we will have, we'll have your website up and everything, because you guys need funding, and
the movie is in development.
It's in development.
Yeah.
So if anybody is interested out there, send me a note. I'll send it along.
Please do.
But no, in all honesty, if there's any way anybody can help support, I think that this would be really awesome for our community. So thank you guys for coming. In our last 30 seconds, I'll leave you with this. There are all kinds of therapies out there. Cinema therapy is not one I've ever heard of, but now doing my research and learning a little bit more, it's now something I'm very interested in, to see what story I can write to understand how I am a hero in my story. And Brian, you're going to be a hero in your story too. So please stay tuned. We'll probably have more from Matthew and from Robert talking about their movie on Parkinson's as it's in development, and will be shot here live in Columbus at some point soon. That's right. With that, we will see you all soon.